Nicodemus here. On today's podcast, I wanted to go off something that just happened in my life. So I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about having to be receptive to new ideas. Take the course, I flip through it, and I open it randomly to a happy learner, and I feel like everything really hit home about having to rely on the Holy Spirit and to let go of what we think we know. Can you go more into that?
Yeah, sure, sure. The happy learner is such a great distinction of the course. And, you know, that's how you know you're learning the lessons of the Holy Spirit. So God says, the course says, God's will for me is perfect happiness. The goal and the function is actually to be happy. So to be happy, and it's not like the happiness that the world teaches us. Happy when things go my way, when I get exactly what I want. Not like that type of happiness, because everyone can see that's very fleeting and it sets you up in a chasing after happiness. But this is a totally different context. And the happy learner learns gentle lessons of forgiveness. And he says in this section, Jesus says, is that the Holy Spirit has need of the happy learners. When we talk about the happy learner sees the happy dream. And what is the happy dream? The happy dream is that I recognize I'm dreaming and that I use the dream and everything in the dream for purposes of forgiveness, for purposes of healing. So I want to read some stuff out of this, The Happy Learner. We can go a little bit further into it. It's a great section. I would recommend reading the whole section. And the section's built on this premise. He goes a lot into this section is that only the truth is true. So that's a very fundamental distinction in A Course in Miracles, and it really needs to be understood to like as our way out of suffering or as our way out of the nightmare. So what is only the truth is true mean? It really goes back to the beginning of the course, which is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Is that what is true cannot be threatened by any illusions that we make up in our minds about the world. What's reality is and is truth can never be affected by any of those. And actually everything that is not true does not exist. So only the truth is true, Jesus says throughout the course. And he's going to talk about a little bit here, or I'll read some of what he says that in only the truth is true. That means the truth about you, your life, joy, freedom, love, abundance. Only that stuff is true and nothing else is true. It's not like you could have uh, both be true. So it can't be there's the Holy Spirit, love, freedom, joy, abundance, and that whole thought system. And then there's a thought system of the ego of fear, separation, lack, conflict, guilt, shame. They can't both be true. And what Jesus says is that because if they were to be true, that would be like a blemish on God. There can't be God, which is eternal and love, have a blemish on itself. I'm using words here, so forgive me because the words always fall short. But God, being eternal love, cannot have a blemish, saying that there's a part of this insanity that you and I made. We can't make it real, no matter how much we attempt to do it. We always attempt to do that. We try to make the nightmare real, and then we try to handle it as a separate being. So what Jesus is saying is the way out of that is to recognize that only the truth is true. So he reads this in chapter 14, section 2, paragraph 3. He says, to those unhappy learners who would teach themselves nothing. And real quick is anytime you're struggling, I'm struggling, there's fear, uncertainty, doubt, any of that stuff, all of that is teaching ourselves nothing, because in the end, all of that is nothing, and that only what the Holy Spirit teaches us is of any value. And the Holy Spirit is always teaching us to be happy, that that God is always with us. The Holy Spirit's always with us, that we are taken care of forever, and that we are created as pure, free, eternal beings, and that all the appearances of problems that we go through are all nothing in the end. So he says, so to those unhappy learners who would teach themselves nothing and delude themselves into believing that it is not nothing. And don't we do that? We chase after all the things in the world and want it to be not nothing, and in the hopes that it'll fill us up. So he goes on, he says, to those unhappy learners who would teach themselves nothing and delude themselves into believing that it is not nothing, the Holy Spirit says with steadfast quietness, the truth is true. Nothing else matters, nothing else is real, and everything beside it is not there. I love when Jesus says this. He says, "Let me make the one distinction for you that you cannot make, but need to learn. Your faith in nothing is deceiving you." So what Jesus is saying is that us placing our faith in nothing and anything that changes with time, so sickness, scarcity, lack, death, all of that, what Jesus is saying is nothing. It's like a shadow, and it really has no substance to it. It appears very real to us, so it's not about minimizing what we go through as human beings. All of it, though, is for our own learning to wake up to all of those illusions can't touch us. So he says, "Your faith in nothing is deceiving you." Jesus continues on. He says, "Offer your faith to me, and I will place it gently in the holy place where it belongs. You will find no deception there, but only the simple truth. And you will love it because you will understand it." And one of the things Jesus is saying is that we only find deception in the world because it's a world built on separation. And that he's what he's saying is you will find no deception there when he places our faith in him at the gently in the Holy Spirit where it belongs, in the holy place where it belongs, in the Christ consciousness. Now he goes on, he says, if you would be in paragraph 6, he says, actually, let's paragraph 5, let's go to sentence 3. He says, "Learn to be a happy learner. You will never learn how to make nothing everything." And that's where all of our misery comes from. We always try to make something of the world be the way we want it to be, and then we'll finally feel at peace and free. And that's the trap. Because what Jesus is saying, he says, learn to be a happy learner. You will never learn how to make nothing everything. Yet see that this has been your goal and recognize how foolish it has been. That's what we all come here to try to find, quote, heaven for ourselves. He goes on, he says, if you would be a happy learner, you must give everything you've learned to the Holy Spirit to be unlearned for you. And then begin to learn the joyous lessons that come quickly on the firm foundation that truth is true. And they are joyous lessons. And ultimately for us, we want to ask ourselves, am I learning joyous lessons? Am I learning, how to be a happy learner? And I wanna say that is in terms of there's so many modalities out there, teachers and teachings, and, we're in the information age, so of course there is. One of the things I always look for, if I'm gonna learn something from someone, I wanna see, like, how happy are they? I know that this is so simple. It's like, do they emit joy? Do you when you're around them, do you feel joyful and happy and peaceful? Do they access it? Not to say that we're all gonna be perfect in it, because if we were, we would have no need for a body and lessons. When we really get it so totally, we move on to a whole other a whole other dimension ultimately with this, but that's not where we're at now. Now we have 2 thought systems, and we get to choose the thought system of the Holy Spirit, so we become a happy learner and learn gentle lessons of forgiveness, which make a happy dream, and that's like we're here for this short period of time, really on our way to eternity or back home in eternity. So what Jesus is telling us in this section is learn to be a happy learner so that you could fulfill your function, which is to be happy.